Hi guys, so my name is Alyssa and my educational giant is Catharine Beecher, and I know quite a few of you chose her as well, so hopefully they come out a little different and they're not all the same. She was born September 6th in 1800 in New York, and she was the oldest of 9 children. When she was 9 years old, her family moved to Connecticut, where she was able to attend the Litchfield Female Academy. She had Sarah Pierce as a teacher here, and one of the things that Sarah taught her was that women and men were intellectually equal, and this kind of sparked all of Catharine's beliefs and made her who she was. At the age of 16, Catharine's mother passed away, which left Catharine having to try to fill her shoes as a mother and a housekeeper, and that lasted for about a year, and then her father got remarried, which gave Catharine the opportunity to take a teaching job in New London, and she wrote a lot of poems here that were actually published, and it kind of made for a really cute love story because a Yale University professor named Alexander Fisher read one of her poems and fell in love with her. He asked her to marry her, and she said yes, and while they were engaged, he decided to travel to Europe to study the different teaching methods, and ended up getting in a shipwreck and dying. And after this tragedy, Catharine never had children, she never remarried, and she decided that she was going to dedicate her life to education. So 1 year later, after her fiance passed away, Catharine and her sister Mary founded the Hartford Female Seminary. And this seminary was quite a bit different from the typical seminaries back then because it allowed women to study a wide variety of different subjects instead of just fine arts and languages, which was pretty impacting. And then 8 years later, Catharine followed her father to Ohio, where she kind of branched out on her own, and she started the Western Female Institute. And it struggled financially quite a bit in the beginning, but while she was there, she was able to work on some textbooks that she wrote, and they were called the McGuffey Readers, and they were a series of textbooks for grade levels 1 through 6, and they're now known as the best known school books in the history of American education. They're from the time period of 1836 to 1960, 120 million of these books were sold, and it placed them in the same category as the Bible and Webster's Dictionary, which is kind of cool because it tells you how famous they actually were. After these books were published, it was kind of the start of Catharine's famous career. She was able to travel and support herself through lectures and writing books. Most of her books were all based on the role that a woman should play as a mother and an educator. She was always giving women power and strength, and teaching women that they are great educators, and some other points that she would make were that women should be modest, and they should cook, and there's a role that they play in the household. And I thought this was kind of cool because of the things that our church believes. I feel like she's a great example of it. One thing that kind of surprised me was that Catharine opposed women's suffrage, and this was kind of crazy to hear because she was such a strong advocate for women being strong and independent, and yet she opposed women's suffrage. She has this quote about women's suffrage that says, "A large portion of those who demand women's suffrage are persons who have not been trained to think and are chiefly guided by their generous sensibilities." So it kind of shows the kind of personality she had. After this, she moved back east with family, and she started teaching a little bit. But at this time in her life, she had suffered from quite a few nervous collapses, and she was in more than a dozen sanitariums. Eventually, she died at age 77, and she was living with her brother in New York at that time. But as I read about Catharine Beecher, it was really easy to make a connection with her because I realized without her, I wouldn't be here at college learning all these different subjects and becoming the teacher that I want to become. I wouldn't have that opportunity as a woman, and there are many women who wouldn't have had this opportunity without her. I searched what the percentages of women who are teacher are. Sorry, I said that funny. And it's 76% of teachers worldwide are women. And so she's made an incredible impact for us as women and for everyone. And I hope that you guys enjoyed my video and you were able to learn something about Catharine. And